Do you think we'll ever see live conferences again? Well, stick around, I'll give you my thoughts. I'm sure it's not new news to tell you that there have been very few live conferences over the past year. All the proposed drone conferences were either canceled or turned into a virtual event. And that's been a big change. And not only our industry, but it's affected all the other industries around the world too. But that may change later this year. But what if it doesn't? What if we're left with meeting by Zoom all the time? We've had so many Zoom meetings over this past year, I think Zoom's actually become a verb. This may become the new normal. Let's look at some of the differences. First of all, let's look at the economic impact on the host city. There's no venue rental, no hotel rooms, no airlines, no rental cars, no local dining, and on and on and on. So major impact to the host city. And what's the impact on the attendee side? Well, the good thing is lower cost, lower commitment of time, and still the same content. So that's a plus. But no face-to-face contact, no social interaction, no touchy-feely for any product demonstrations out there, no environmental stimuli, no social gatherings after the event to help cement relationships. Now, just last week, I attended a virtual conference put on by a large international telecommunications association. For those of you that know me, that, of course, is BICSI. And just for reference, I'm a past president, a former CEO, and a former conference planner of that association, so I know it pretty well. And what I wanted to do is kind of walk you through what they did and talk about the pros and cons of their virtual conference. Now, this conference normally draws in the neighborhood of 5,000 people, so this is a big deal. So how did the virtual event fare? Well, if we look at the pre-opening activities, all the correspondence we get from the association, same as normal. You wouldn't see any difference there. Then on opening day, when we log in, the first thing we see is this simulated lobby and auditorium. Now, I'm not a big fan of that, but that's what we had to do in order to navigate the system. Now, up in the upper left-hand corner, there was a box for the welcome video, and that welcome video was pre-recorded by the president of the association. Now, I will say it was well scripted, well rehearsed, well performed, and well produced, and it helped put me in a conference mood. Once we got to opening day, there was another short sketch by the executive director and president, where it looked like the executive director was living at the office, since the office has been closed for the past year. It was entertaining, and again, well scripted, well rehearsed, well performed, and well produced. And I think most attendees expect something along these lines. So I would say that's a plus. Now, when we move on to the educational sessions, or what I like to call speaker in a box, and you'll see why up here, things changed drastically because now the association was no longer in charge of the production quality of what was put out. Every speaker was different. Some good video and bad audio, some good audio and bad video, some both were bad. So it really varied. And the worst, the absolute worst, was the people that tried to use those Zoom backgrounds. That's horrible. Please don't do that. Here's a couple of examples that I can point to right here. And you can see how the mask does not track them, or the green screen behind them shows over the guy's hat. This is not a good way of doing things. If you want to do it right, here's an example one I did about myself. You can see I'm standing in front of a green screen, but I've got 5 lights involved here. I've got a key light, I've got a fill light, I've got a hair light behind me to separate me from the background, and I've got 2 separate lights on the green screen lighting it. They're both exposed at different values to help give that separation, and I get a good clean result that will last through the entire video. So if you're going to do it right. Now look at this panel discussion. Look at the different speaker boxes there. Here again, everybody was a little different, and that's not good. So how do we fix that? Well, if you ever looked at the American Idol from last March, not the current one, but last March, all the entertainers and all the contestants had to perform from their home venues. And the production quality was outstanding. I wasn't sure how they did that. But in that case, what they did was they sent out iPhone cameras, identical iPhone cameras, lighting equipment, and best practices techniques to all the competitors. Consequently, we had a really good, really high production value presentation. Now, I'm not saying the association needs to send out equipment, But if you send out some best practices on how to light, how to set your camera up, things to do and not to do, I think these could be improved drastically. So is there anything positive to say about the educational content? Absolutely. Content, top notch. And of course, I had the ability to either rewatch videos or watch ones I'd missed live. And that was a great benefit. So in terms of value for dollar, I think the virtual part of this in terms of education was better than the live event. Now, like any good conference, there was an exhibit hall, but in this case, it was just a row of simulated boxes along the top showing the various exhibitors. You could click on their booth, so-called, but you went basically to a web page to look at products, white papers. I felt like I was surfing the web. Really didn't like that, and I don't know of a good virtual solution for that. Same thing for the lounges and chat rooms. Just didn't work for me. Sending texts or emails or scheduling calls or something is just not the same as that physical interaction. They had something called the BICSI Theater, which was various videos from the manufacturers, and those were pretty good. I enjoyed those. Then we had the awards banquet. Typically, there's a banquet and awards ceremony every Wednesday night. Well, they couldn't do that, so they pre-taped it. It was good, but the same problem existed depending on where the speaker was and what equipment he used. The quality varied a lot. Then the closing ceremonies, of course, went back to BICSI in terms of production quality. Again, well scripted, well rehearsed, well performed, and well produced, and made for a good ending to the conference. I hope we're able to return to live events later this year. But what if we can't? What if the pandemic continues and we're not able to do that? Do you think these kind of events are sustainable? I really don't. There's got to be a component of physical interaction, and I think long-term people will not want to come to these things. Are there any solutions? Well, what about the gaming community? They do a really good job of virtual reality. Maybe we can learn something from them. To really think outside the box, how about holograms? Could we attend on a hologram basis? How about 3D virtual worlds? I was involved in those 5 or 6 years ago, and I thought it was tremendous. Meetings I went to there were very effective. Problem with those was a very steep learning curve for the attendee to operate their own avatar. And unless that's fixed, I don't see them as a viable alternative either. And of course, I welcome your suggestions on the topic. Are there other ways you can think of that might help us with this kind of event? I hope you're still enjoying these videos. I certainly enjoy doing them. And if you've got something from this one, give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And if you feel like sharing it with some of your friends, please do so. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you've got a video you'd like to submit to me to include in a future video, please do so and I'd be happy to include it. And as always, thank you for watching.